Yo, 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 yo. What's up, everybody? We are back again with another episode. This is the Class in Session podcast. That's right, the Class in Session podcast. I am your host, Logan Taylor. My brother, my partner in crime, he couldn't be with us today, but he is here with us in spirit. My co host, Mr. Dante Hampton. And we got a special guest for you all today. We have Mr. J on the drums, as you see his name. He is a third grade teacher in Colorado. All right. He is a third grade teacher at Butler Elementary. Jay is the creator of a streaming service for teachers called Kids Freeze Dance. Features videos for grades K through 3 that mix movement with content. Jay, welcome to the podcast.
Logan, thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor to be here. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a third grade teacher, and the name might look a little strange. Like, who is this character? What is Jay on the drums all about? Like you mentioned, I do run a streaming service for teachers, and the main goal of that is mixing movement with learning. So just brief story about me. I grew up in Chicago. I live in Colorado now. And as a teen, I wanted to be a drummer in a band, and I was playing the drums, and that was like my childhood dream. I wanted to be a rock star. So I spent most of my 20s trying to do that, but also getting that bachelor's in education. So I was doing music and I was doing teaching, kind of in two different worlds, right? At the same time, I was working in a health club. And so, like, fitness was always a big part of my life too. Fast forward to about 2012, I moved from Chicago and I sold everything I had, took my truck, drove all the way solo to the beach in San Diego, and I tried as hard as I could to do music full time. And I ended up finding a way to drum in yoga classes, which was just so strange. Like, what a weird world to do music into. But I started doing that. And as I fulfilled the dream of being kind of a rock star, I got to tour, I got to go around the country and play Red Rocks in Colorado. And then I kind of did that dream. And then I was like, man, I forgot all about my other dream, which was I wanted to be a teacher. So getting into teaching, as I started teaching preschool, kindergarten, I taught second grade. And when I was teaching second was when COVID hit. And I had been doing freeze dance videos for my kids in person with an African drum called a djembe. Super cool drum, really bassy. And I was doing that. And obviously, with COVID, everyone had to go home, right? So I made one video for my class and it kind of sparked something like, wow, if I make one for my class, I could make for all classes. And that's kind of how I dipped my toe into making online videos with music. But with freeze dance, the base of freeze dance is play a song, hit pause, kids stop, and it's kind of about testing their reaction. What I discovered is I could do the drumming, and when I had them freeze, that was like the perfect moment to present a fact or a lesson or a question. So I kind of went with that, Logan, and when I was like, wow, I could do subtraction, math facts, addition, math facts. We freeze, put it up, 2 + 2 equals. Now you have to stay frozen, but they can talk. And so they're moving, they're thinking, they're interacting. And so my journey was like music, fitness, teaching. And I found a way finally to kind of put it all together.
I love that. That's dope. That's dope. That's super dope. I love that. Being able to incorporate music, right, which is something that's relatable to everybody, right, in some type of form or fashion. Everybody loves music. You have some kids that love jazz music. You have some kids that love hip hop. You have some kids that love classical and things of that nature. And I think that that's amazing, being able to incorporate all of those different genres, right? And then being able to help them understand those math facts and give them those facts to be able to help them learn. I think that's
Yeah.
amazing.
And I love how you mentioned the different music styles. And so for me, being just a drummer, it's just drums. There's no song. it's not where it might discriminate. Like, say someone didn't like jazz and now that music's on, maybe a kid doesn't like that, but I feel everyone is in tune with drumming. And
Hmm.
so my songs are not songs, it's drum beats. And then you freeze. And I think that kind of breaks down barriers because I mean everyone likes music, everyone likes to you want to move and dance, and like that it builds community, right?
Absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing, right? Is about building community and being able to impact our babies and our scholars, right? Like that's
Yeah.
what it's all about. So I love that. That's amazing. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's like the
Um,
universal language. If they don't speak English or they speak whatever language, it does not matter because then you can understand the music.
Absolutely. You
Yeah,
understand the drum. You can get the beat of the drum because music is a universal language, right? Like
yes.
I love Afro beats. So I
Mm,
listen to Afro beats and I love Afro beats and I love the drums and the ukuleles and you know what I'm saying, all the different instruments that they play. Like I love all of that type of stuff. And here recently, I just got into Russian and
mm.
Japanese music.
Ah,
And so being able to just experience that, right? And like I'm just like, man, this is dope. Like I wish I would have caught on to this earlier. Like
like
this is
way
really
earlier.
amazing. Right. Like dang, like this is what's going on over here. Like dang, like I really like it's amazing. So I love it. So let me ask you, Jay, what is well, I guess put it like this. Why did you get into education, right? Like we
Mm,
understand teachers and their callings. Like you have to be very special to answer that calling when it comes to being in education. And you know, we'll touch on those different topics later. But
yeah,
if you could talk to our audience and just explain like why did you get into education?
yeah, I remember it very vividly. So, kind of a funny story. My fifth grade teacher, it was the only male teacher I ever had. He had really long straight hair, like a bowl haircut, but it was long too. It was really long. So he made this deal with our class that if by the end of the year we had reached some goal of like a grade level status, I don't remember exactly, but the deal was if we all did that, we could shave his head. And it was we did it. And I never forgot that moment. And I later would analyze it and just realize how good of a role model this guy was for me. And it's rare in education to see men, right? So it spoke to me a lot being a boy at the time. Like it just reached me. And so my inspiration later in college when I had to write about my reasoning, it was basically to be a positive role model. And I had my mom was really sick when I was about 15. She had cancer, so I needed positive role models to help lift me up. And when I looked at myself, I always saw music as a way. So when I was struggling as a teen, my positive role models were specific bands and musicians and artists, and they spoke to me and helped me in my own private mental world. So to fight through, when you listen to music, that's an experience inside. And so the reason I ever wanted to be a teacher was basically to be a positive role model, right? Like that would have been my ticket to do it. And that was the driving force. And I feel like when I think about it, I get to do that every day to this day. Like I'm living that dream.
I love that. That's amazing. I love that. I love that. That's
Like kids that don't have a dad or even a mom. It doesn't matter, mom or dad, but specifically kids that do not have a father, when they have a male teacher, you'll never take that place, but you're there 40 hours a week with them. And so you're affecting them. And if you can do that in a positive way, that there's nothing greater.
Absolutely. I think being able to catch scholars early on, right? Like not catching them at middle school or high school,
Mm,
catching them early on, especially with you being in elementary, you understand this because you just said it. And so being able to catch them early on and then walking with them, that's going to help them throughout their life, right? Like you said, your only male teacher was in the fifth grade, but you remember him, right? As you are an adult and a teacher now, you remember him now. Like I think that's oh man, that's amazing.
yeah, I like
That's
your point on
amazing.
that. With it, the younger is more important because you're still building, a lot of the brain is still being developed, and also just habits routines, and you're being influenced tremendously as a kid. And when you see your role model, and I'm tall, I'm 6'3", so I'm a big guy. It's like I walk in the classroom, the kids are up to my hip. It's a big presence, but to do that in a loving way, I think that's like almost a superpower on the guy's end. As us being men in education, we can deliver such a powerful experience to our kids.
I love that. Oh man, I love that. That's good.
Isn't
He
that
dropping
pretty cool just
gems,
to think
y'all.
about? Like, ooh, it's cool.
Listen, Jay dropping gems, y'all. Y'all need to make sure y'all listen. Make sure y'all got y'all's notepad out because Jay is dropping some gems right now. So, Jay, let me ask you, what is one piece of advice? Because now you've been working in the elementary for 3 years now, right?
Yeah.
What is one piece of advice for someone wanting to start out with wanting to work in the education space, or even just wanting to work in elementary?
Yeah, I had a teacher start at my school last year, and he was just kind of he was asking like, what should I do? How should I do this? Another male too, so it was kind of convenient. But with any teacher, what I would say is, and what I told him, focus 100% on your connection with your kids. If you can't build a relationship with them, they're never going to hear you. So spend those first couple weeks, even months. It's mostly about connection. Second from connection would be you want to establish your like your behavior, classroom management. You can't teach if you can't, I want to say control, but that's the wrong word. Like you want to keep them on task, and you have to be able to guide them. But if they're not going to listen to you, then all the planning in the world isn't going to help you. You can't plan that math lesson unless you can get your kids' attention and unless they know you care, right? If they know you don't care, they're going to tune you out. So I would say my advice as a new teacher or even as a seasoned teacher to reflect on, build that connection, because those kids come back to you years later and they stop you in the hall and they want a hug because they remember you. They don't know what you taught them. I mean, sure, maybe, but in elementary, it's so you don't remember that. You remember the person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's. I think that that's good. Like you said, making the connection is step one, and then classroom management is step two, and that could be setting the expectations of what you have for your scholars. Like I think that that's important, right? So and it's funny that you talk about connection. So what I want to ask you next is I want to ask you, how do you build that connection, right? Like what does that look like? Like I know you being a male teacher and things of that nature. So I'm very intrigued to know from your perspective, being a male teacher in a female dominated space, how do you build that connection with your scholars?
So with this school year just starting, the first day I remember kind of shocking them. Like what it would we had their breakfast, we said the pledge, and then it was time to start the first day of school. Their desks are covered with all their supplies, and I'm not even going to care about that. I'm like, all right, everybody stand up and push in your chairs. And like, you could see their eyes just, what are we doing? Why are we standing up? And like, just doing like, okay, we're going to do some jumping jacks. And these are third graders. So they're like, wait a minute, this isn't PE, kind of involving them. Then I bring them to the carpet. And I like to do like hand clapping patterns or just funny things. And I try to get them to see me smile and to bring a little bit of humor and joy before we even talk about third grade and learning. It's just about connecting. Another way to connect with my kids is tell them about myself. I always provide a slideshow. I show them my wife, I show them my dog, I show them where I'm from as in Chicago. I show them a picture of me as a third grader, and I just humanize myself. And that's how you can start it. As your year goes, you want to ask your kids what they're into. If kids are into Minecraft, which they are, try to slip it in when it makes sense. Use that as your example. When you're going into math, like, oh, we've seen this shape, it's a cube. Who in the room likes Minecraft? And like 70% of the kids will raise their hand. You want to use what they know and validate them and their interests, and then because they want to talk about what they like, right? We all like to do that. We all like to talk about, hey, this is what I'm into, I want to share it.
Absolutely. People love talking about themselves. My,
Yeah,
that's something that my grandmother taught me raising me, is that, you know, people love to talk about themselves. So, you know, making them feel good, adding value to people and things of that nature. I think that that's important. So that's some really good advice. I really think that that's good.
I like you
So
said the word value because that's making people feel validated, like they belong. And if like say one kid liked Minecraft, but now he's the expert and he gets to share that with his friends, like you just gave that kid, he's building his identity now and he has value. He's important. And I don't think that can be undervalued by us as adults. You got to let them shine and then they're just going to be excited.
absolutely. I love
Yeah.
that. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, listen, we're all about adding value. That's one of the reasons why we started the podcast, right? Like, we wanted to give educators a platform to be able to use their voice, to be heard, right? To share their journey, their best practices, their ups, their downs, their highs, their lows, you know what I'm saying? And different things of
Mhm.
that nature. And so I think that, you know, it's important to let people know that they matter. I think that it's important to let teachers know that they rock. I think it's important to allow teachers to know, like, hey, listen, you are a human being, and I want you to know that what you do in this space and what your calling is and what your purpose is, I think that it's very important. And
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
such
it's
a beautiful
important.
like
It's
mission
important to let people know
statement
that.
and like for on your end being on the podcast creation side, like what a great vision and purpose for this platform. I'm grateful to be on. This is so fun.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your company, Kids Freeze Dance. Let's talk about that a little bit. So just tell our audience about what it is. You know what I'm saying? How did you come up with it, and different things of that nature? Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so like I kind of just mentioned, starting the school year, I had my kids get up. We did jumping jacks. Kids have energy. We know that. What I see and what I saw was that a lot of teachers would try to fight that. And so, in my perspective, I always thought, why fight it? Why fight anything? Why not go with it? And so, when kids have energy, you got to think their attention spans, depending on the age, is say 15 minutes. So we're doing math. Math is 90 minutes. You're not going to sit for 90. There's no way. So Kids Freeze Dance came out of the need to fill the lesson with a little bit of variety, right? So you want to model, your lesson, you want to get their attention, you want to practice as a class, you want to review, but you also want independent work. And so creating videos that allowed the movement to happen in a structured way was kind of where I found my niche, right? Like maybe teachers don't know how to do movement with their kids, so I feel like that's a superpower for me. I know how to do that. I worked a long time in recreation with children. I've taught. I'm a musician, and I'm all about fitness. So it all goes together. So if I can create a video that guides the kids through movement while reviewing educational material, this kind of gives the teacher a little bit of a break. They can sit back. They can observe, see who's participating. Maybe there's a question, maybe they're not understanding it, but you could see it because now you've got almost a guided video, and they're all to standards. So it's things we teach. But Kids Freeze Dance is all about reaching kids in different content, getting them moving, activating parts in the brain that help them remember and ingrain these lessons. It's not just let me tell you, it's let me show you, let me teach you, let me instill this in you, and we're going to move, and you're never going to forget it because we're getting silly, we're getting active, right? So Kids Freeze Dance is all about that. It's like interactive learning, getting you moving, making it memorable, and getting them out of their seat. I mean, come on, you got to do that.
I love that. That's amazing. So, excuse me. So that's amazing. I love that concept, right? Being able to incorporate all of those different things. I think that that's important, right? I think that that's very important. What's a common myth about your job that you're just kind of like, you kind of give people the side eye, or you're kind of like I'm not gonna say a disbelief, but in a way, it's like, well, this is what y'all think of me as a teacher. Like,
Oh
what's
wow.
a common myth?
So like I just like overhear maybe meeting somebody new, and I'm like, hey, I'm a teacher. What is a myth? They most people, maybe generally speaking, they might think.
Right.
Okay, I would say the biggest one for non-teachers. I think most people think kids learn the same way. So to put it like in a different perspective, I bet most people think kids go into the classroom, they sit down, they learn, and that's it. I don't think that's the that's not the case. If you're working with children, you know very well there's a whole range of how kids learn. It could be auditory, it could be through feel. Movement really plays into the kinesthetic, the movement, the feeling, experiencing the lesson. There's so many different learning styles. So I would say the myth. So people probably think that. They probably think I'm sending my kid to school and they just imagine they're sitting there and they're learning for 8 hours. That's just like ridiculous.
Okay. Okay. I don't think I had any. We haven't had that one. We haven't had that one. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, I think that that's big, right? Like the different learning styles and being able to have scholars being able to identify what their learning style is and then maximize that. So I think that that's important. I like that. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
because I remember learning in college about the different learning styles, and up until that point, I did not know. Um,
Really?
and so until you're exposed to that knowledge, you're not going to know about it. But to run an effective classroom of 20 plus children, they're all different, and that might be another myth. Not really understanding how different kids are. I mean, that's the thing. They just think of they're kids. Well, they're not just kids. They're Hank, they're John, they're Cindy, they're whoever their names are. They're all 24 individuals. It's not like they're just a class. Like you got to see like them for who they are, right?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
agree wholeheartedly. Absolutely. All right. So I got a hot seat question.
Okay.
So we do this with every guest that we bring on. Is there a number or value that you think educators should be paid?
Hmm.
Um, and now, before you answer this, I want you to think about this. When I say a number of value, like think about everything that's going on in today's world. You all coming, educators coming out of COVID and going back into teaching, educator burnout being so high and things of that nature. Is there a number or value that you feel like, what I'm saying, this is what we should be getting and things of that nature? I'm gonna let you touch on that.
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm hesitant to put up an actual solid number. I can say without hesitation it should at least be doubled from whatever everyone's getting right now. Like an easy doubling of that, whatever number that is. I think that would just boost it tremendously. Double what it is, because if you look at, I think the way teachers are perceived, I think everyone knows how valuable they are, but I always look at it like, why aren't teachers like pro athletes? Like, they, to the world of the kid, they're just as big if not more important than like a football player, right? So it's unrealistic to say that teachers should be making millions and doing commercials and getting sponsorships, but I mean the spirit of that I'm on board with. I would say I couldn't give you a direct number because states are different, the levels are all, it's all different, and it's based on your education. But I would say a quick kind of easy fix, if they could find a way just to double what it is. Teachers do so much. You think it's just the hours of the school. You're not taking into account working on lunch, working before school, working after school, all the emotional baggage you take home, not to mention the grading. We're getting paid for one job when it's really like two. So I say let's double it, and I think that would hit that number, whatever it is.
Okay. All right. So my number and what
Okay.
I think you all should be getting paid is, I think that the bare minimum should be 80,000.
I like that. I like that. I can't argue with that one.
I think that the bare minimum should be 80,000. I do understand in some states or bigger cities, right? Like the cost of living is a little bit higher, so I understand and get that.
Yeah.
However, I just feel like, you have people that are entertainers, lawyers, doctors, gynecologists, different fields that make, engineers, architects, right? Well, who were the people to pour into them and help them identify and learn these things, right? It was a teacher.
That's it.
And so
You
it's
just
like,
nailed it. Like they say, the teachers make all the other jobs, right? Like they make it all possible.
absolutely. And
So
so I feel like,
80
hey,
grand, like where is, I mean, what other jobs kind of start you there? I think like the trades is you start as an apprentice, you come in, but then within a couple years, you could make up 50 bucks an hour. Like
right,
that's getting
right,
there. You thinking
right.
trade, right?
Absolutely. And so
Yeah.
I think like, teachers, this is what teachers should be making in the bare minimum. And of course, you have teachers that have been working here for 20, 30 plus years. And of course, their compensation will be a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Um, but I just think that that should be the bare minimum. And then having, you know what I'm saying, certain programs in place for teachers, right? Like if you want to get a house, there should be a housing program, right? If you need help getting a vehicle, there should be a vehicle program, right? Because we need to show educators that we value them. We need to show them that they matter. And I feel like doing those things will start moving in the right direction and showing, you know what I'm saying, educators that, hey, we hear y'all, we value y'all. Because now if somebody knows that they're getting paid 80,000, that's the minimum, right? Like you're gonna start getting better candidates.
Yeah. Oh, that's a
You're
big
gonna have a
category
better
right
pool
there.
to pull
I know
from.
some states are letting almost anyone and everyone in because there's such a shortage, and that almost shows that the people, the powers that be, do not value the education system. It's like almost feels like they could not care any less, right? Like they're thinking maybe it's gonna be whatever it's gonna be, and we're gonna be all right. But if you look at the future of the youth and what they're gonna grow up and grow into, you're shortchanging everybody who's a kid and a youth and the youth part of their life. They're not gonna learn anything of quality. They're going to probably have a poor role model. Touching on earlier with you need positive role models. Like that's so important, but you need people that care. And I think, your point on 80,000 would get people better candidates because people are going to work for it, not just bringing the guy off the street who's done doing his business and now he can be a teacher. That doesn't make any sense. That's counterproductive to teaching, I think.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
agree. If Dante was here, he would say, he's all about structure and systems and things of that nature. So he would give a different perspective on it. And I just think that, hey, we want to have the best candidates for the next generation, then I think that that's a starting point.
Yeah. And there's already so many people that are dedicated teachers that are making half of that. Could you imagine the quality that they would put out if you basically doubled it, kind of putting our ideas together? But if a teacher out of college was going to make 80 grand and you're 20, 21, or maybe 22 out of college, I mean, that's some incredible money. That's get a house money. That's get a, not be in debt money if you're smart with it. That's really good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's see here. If there was one thing that you could change, if you were to meet with the Secretary of Education Monday and he says, hey, Jay, what's that one thing you would like for us to change? We go ahead and change it. We've implemented on Tuesday morning for all schools across the nation. What is that one thing you would change in the education system?
So I won't take the easy route and go for pay because we just covered that. I'll go for something else because that would be number one, right? I mean that's it. I would say number two behind this, because I've thought about this. I would love to see it if there was more funding for the classroom itself. So thinking about manipulatives, things to use, technology, even decorations. I mean, you walk into a new classroom as a first year teacher, it's bare, it's concrete, it's just empty and cold. It's up to the teacher to fill that with life. And I think if there was like a better stipend of money for each school, each classroom, each teacher. Like when I started at my school, I mean, it was like $100. What are you going to do with $100? Like you can't. I bought a bunch of clipboards because they need it. I bought, stuff, but only $100. If every room was given like say 10 grand, I mean, you could do so much more. And that's ultimately helping the kids and taking away the expenses from us as teachers because we fund that. And there's more money out the window. I mean, give me that 80 grand, yes. But if it wasn't going to be that, I would say fund the teachers, give them a bankroll of some money to, and then it's going to carry over for the years, right? You're going to start 10 grand, keep that stuff in the classroom next year, another 10 grand, but now you're building and your resources. You could have so much access to technology. I mean, kids need to be using laptops at every level. They need to be, that's where the world's at. I mean, every kid should be learning how to access and work with technology. We could do that. Why not?
Okay. I haven't heard that one. So funding for the classroom. Okay.
I think so.
All right.
What have you heard? Like, what's your favorite one?
So we've heard standardized testing. So remove standardized testing.
Okay.
We've heard pay. We've heard someone talk about like the textbooks and things of that nature, technology. For the most part, most people have said remove standardized testing and um, compensation for the most part. We had one person that talked about wellness and fitness.
Mm,
She said, "Hey, I think if I were to meet with the Secretary of Education, I would tell him wellness and fitness. We would need to have better like lunch and things of that nature to build better wellness and fitness in our babies." And I was like, "Okay, that's good." Let me see what else. That's all that I can think of right off the top of my head. But for the most part, it's been the standardized testing, the money, wellness, and fitness, and things of that nature.
yeah, I didn't consider because I know my school has breakfast for kids. I think most schools do, but like, yeah, better supply of nutritional food, not
Right,
just like here's like what do they got? Like some of the food's really bad, right? Like it should be actual
right,
food.
right.
Like where's the fruit? Where's like the real nutrition coming from? Not like a
Absolutely,
packaged sugary treat or pizza. I've seen my in schools do pizza in the morning. Like, come on, that's like a lesson.
absolutely.
Come on, they need
Yeah,
like bananas, they need oranges, they need apples, they need fruit, cereal, something.
absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. I agree wholeheartedly. So before we get into our next question and stuff like that, give me 1 second. We got to pay some bills. All right.
Sure.
All right, guys, listen. This is the Class in Session podcast. This is the Class in Session podcast. Let me say it one more time for the people in the back. This is the Class in Session podcast. And y'all already know I need you to do three things for us. I need you to like, subscribe, and comment. All right. I'm going to say it one more time. I need you to like, subscribe, and comment. All right. And listen, if you feel that, hey, I love what these guys are doing over here at Y.B.Normal and the Class in Session podcast, share it with your network, share it with your community. All right, because we want to add value to people in the education space. All right. And if you really love what we do, leave us a review. Your reviews are important and it helps us make the podcast even better. So again, guys, I need you to like, subscribe, and comment, and this is the Class in Session podcast. All right, Jay. So I think that we were talking about what is that one thing you would change in that. I think changing that would be really really great. So do you see yourself wanting to get out of elementary in the future or anything like that, or do you prefer to stay in elementary because of what we discussed earlier?
Fifth grade is my limit, and that is, I mean, basically that's the end of elementary. I student taught fifth grade. I don't see middle school calling my name. I don't see high school calling my name. I could see years later down the road, maybe teaching at the college level for education. I think, but still with the mindset of elementary. I just feel elementary speaks to me the most and that my personality fits in an elementary setting. Kind of that imaginative stage still, kids still buy in and believe in some funny, fun things. I mean, sure, there's some that don't, but for the most part, kids that are 9 and 8 younger, I mean, their imagination is still wild, and you can do a lot of good things with that.
Right. Absolutely. I love
Yeah.
that. Love that. So, do you think that what are some best strategies, or better yet, yeah, let's go this way. What are some best strategies for using your information, using the product that you've created with the kids freeze dance? What are some best strategies for schools that are interested or wanting to implement what you do and things of that nature, right? So could you touch on that?
Yeah, for sure. So it kind of spans all these subject areas of K through 3. I'm working on getting fourth and fifth. There's kids start to check out and they definitely don't want to dance in fourth and fifth grade. So I'm starting to focus on more fitness. Almost like you mentioned, someone had mentioned, fitness and being fit for kids. Like I'm incorporating more jumping jacks, stretching, movements, freeze. Here's a lesson, right? So I mean, using variety is probably what I think a lot of teachers should really think about. And I always think about it. So if you're going to do your morning meeting and your first graders, consider using a freeze dance video of mine. I have one that's all about positive affirmations. The video starts, good morning, it's Jay on the drums. Let's do some jumping jacks. Be ready to freeze. But when they freeze, we'll say some positive things like, I am loved. And I want them to say it back. I want them to, you feel that with the movement. And what a great way to start your day. Using it in math. How long is your math class? Your math period might be 90 minutes. That's what mine is. You got to use variety and break it up, make it interesting, and use my videos for review. Maybe you want to review multiplication facts. We can get up, we can do all the multiplication facts of 5, and we're going to do this movement video just to get us warmed up and get our brain going. Practicing reading. Practicing reading doesn't have to just be sitting looking at a book and reading. CVC word practice, consonant, vowel, consonant. I have videos for that. So you can get up, we can move, we can dance, we can freeze, we can sound out each word or each sound of the word and work on direction listening because you're still frozen. And then we can move again. We can get silly. We can pause and practice. We can practice reading. We can do nouns and verbs. We can do anything. Anything can happen. And with Kids Freeze Dance, I'm just so committed to creating as much content as I can to provide teachers with tools to mix in movement just to help the kids learn better. I mean, it wakes up the brain, it fires those neurons. It really plays a big part in education. The more you can move, can't move all day because you'll get tired. There comes a point you got to get up, you got to get out of your seat. And I just think Kids Freeze Dance, it's a calling that I heard, and it's just been so natural for me to create these videos. It's a lot of fun. And seeing feedback from around the country, so many different teachers have reached out, sent me videos of their kids doing it, and just the testimonials really, really, really light me up. And to see that kids I'll never meet that are in Texas, I'm in Colorado, I'm not going to meet them, but I get a chance right now through my streaming service to be that positive role model that I so desperately sought when I was a teen and when I was down and low. And my fifth grade teacher cut his hair off, and I really don't have anything I can do like that. But I can be there in a video, and kids love technology. You got to go with that. Show them these videos. If they love it, why hesitate? Go with their energy. Let them get crazy. You
Right.
got to keep some control. But I just think my service is so beneficial for teachers. It's an aid. It's a good way to practice, good way to instill your lessons with your kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sorry about that. We had some minor technical difficulties. I apologize about that, but
Well, it's okay. I thought you were
absolutely,
giving me
man.
the spotlight. I was like, oh, it just went on me. I was like, all right.
Oh yeah, do your thing. Listen, this podcast isn't about me. It ain't about me. It's all about you, educators, and things like that. Um, but before we move forward, listen, Jay, I want to give you your flowers. I do this on every episode. We give our educators their flowers by saying thank you, let you know that we value you. Thank you for answering the calling. Thank you for being, uh, thank you for walking in your purpose boldly and just loving on our babies. and helping them become the best version of themselves. So I just want to say that first. And I just want to say thank you and give you your flowers for that. So I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Logan. I appreciate hearing that. That means a lot.
Absolutely. Because listen, I know y'all don't hear it enough, right? Like y'all don't hear it enough, but the impact that you all make, right? Like if it wasn't for, you know, one of my teachers in the second grade, her name was Miss Gann. She was a white lady, blonde hair, super skinny and tall, um, but she loved me like she birthed me herself.
Oh, wow.
And so,
You remember
if it
that.
wasn't for her, right? Like if she didn't love on me in that moment and in that time when I really needed to be loved, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in. And so, there were some other teachers that poured into me and things like that, but Miss Gann was the person that built the foundation.
And that is beautiful to hear. It's priceless. And that is a lot of what that is the payment that teachers get. It's that almost that feeling of knowing that you're doing a job that's worthwhile, and
Absolutely.
it's so just fulfilling. It is the most fulfilling job, and for so long that's something that teachers kind of hang their hat on. Like, at least in my job, I feel fulfilled. And so for Mrs. Gann, who had that relationship with you, I mean, I'm sure you were her fulfilling feeling, right? Like, in a way
Right.
that you helped her, because
Right.
that's what she wanted. She wanted to help kids. And so she got to do it, and then you benefited also. Oh, that's really awesome. It was second grade, huh? You remember that?
Yep, second grade, man. I remember one time, so I was raised by my grandmother. And I remember one time that my grandmother couldn't go on a field trip. And I remember Miss Gann telling me, she was like, Logan, I'll be your chaperone. I remember before we got on the bus and everything, and um, we were in the classroom, and I remember her telling me, Logan, I'm going to be your chaperone, and we're going to have a good time today. And at first, I felt a little I felt a little on edge. I was a little uneasy because, there were other kids with their parents and, stuff like that. And it really kind of, it really hurt me a little bit. Um, but when I look back and we were going throughout the day of the field trip and stuff like that. And man, Miss Gann was just, man, she was amazing. Like, she said, Logan, we're going to have such a good time. And, I just want to let you know how awesome you are. And I want to let you know how amazing you are. And Logan, we're going to enjoy our time together. And I remember her telling me, she said, Logan, I love you.
Oh,
And when I think about it now, like I get emotional because
yeah.
I'm just like, man, like that lady really, really uh, poured into me. You know what I'm saying? And it's moments like that because, I was as an adolescent, man, I went to 5 different elementary schools. I had a huge target on my back. I got kicked out of the school district um, in middle school, right? And so there were times where I was misunderstood. And there were moments, where, I thought about Miss Gann and just like, man, what would Miss Gann want me to do? And, how would she, say and things like that. And so, man, I miss Miss Gann, man. Like, man, I miss her. Like, I miss her so much because she really, really loved on me. Um, but yeah, man. So, it ain't about me, man. This isn't,
No, but that's
that
that's the
moment.
real side. She gave you unconditional love, and that's what I think true teachers do. And it pushes you through the lack of pay. It pushes you through the stress. But teachers give unconditional love because that's their calling. And the fact that it stuck with you so long says so much. Because that's second grade. I mean, most people don't remember second grade, but you do. And if it called back to you in middle school, you're talking years later to still hit you as a kid. I think that is just that's priceless stuff right there, and that's why I'm a teacher.
Absolutely. Most
Yeah,
definitely, man. Most definitely. I think that
kids
that's
need to hear it. They need to hear that they're important. Quick story: at the end of last school year, the last day of school before we went out for recess for lunch, I did this thing. I put a shoebox at the front of the room, and I said, you know, I've been watching you guys this whole year, and I've decided who my favorite student is. And I said, it's in the box. I'm going to let you come up one at a time. You can't tell anyone who it is. All right. So you get to look in the box, and you can see what I wrote as my favorite student. And it wasn't any writing. What was in the box was a mirror. And so every kid got to go, and the look on their faces after they looked, you know, some of them were like, oh, you know, or just the really sincere smile. But in a way, I got to let them all know how much they meant to me, and to tell them that I loved them on the last day. You know, hopefully I got to instill a little bit of what Miss Gann did for you, just to let them know someone's there. I still see them now. So when I see them in the hall, it's all hugs and high fives, right? Like, they need to see that continues. It's not just done because you're out of my class. You know, I'm your teacher forever, whatever you need.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Oh man, I love that.
So any
Hey,
other
man.
teachers listening, you want to steal that, do it. It just put a little mirror inside a box, one at a time, let them go up and watch their reaction. It is so cool.
I love it. Oh man, I love that. Oh man, I love that. That adds so much value because now you're helping you're validating our babies.
And they need it. They need to be validated. They need to know they're loved and
Yeah.
that they are important and they matter. Every one of them. And that's our job, and it's so fun.
Man, that was God, Jay. That was good, man. That was good. Thank you. That was
Yeah,
good.
thank
That
you.
was good. How can so before we get up out of here, there's two things I need you to do, man. I need you to let people know how they can get in contact with you. And then what I need for you to do is to leave our listeners with a piece of motivation, man. I think that that's very, very important. And let's move. Let's make it happen. Here we
All
go.
right, I like that. Let's move. So you can find me on the web, obviously. Kidsfreezedance.com is the website. I have a lot of content on YouTube. However, they're not the full videos. And my motivation for that is YouTube has a lot of commercials that are a little strange. And so I've seen it when I go to show a video in my class. You never know what commercial is going to pop up, and it's not always appropriate. So basically, my site, it's a streaming site. Basically, think of like Netflix, but it's kids freeze dance videos. They're subdivided by grade and subject. So you can find me at kidsfreezedance.com, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, all the social apps. My videos are up there, but they're primarily previews. So you can check it out and see if, oh yeah, that would work. But they're not the full ones. I encourage everyone to visit the website. That way you get it ad free. You know exactly what's going to be shown to your kids. And I also like to take requests. So if any teachers have ideas, you know, when you're a member of the site, reach out, say, hey, I need a video on this. And I will say, absolutely. Let's work on that. I'll create it for you as part of my membership. The rate for the membership is $5 a month, and that gets you access to all my videos, and I'm adding them every week. So right now I'm on just about 500 videos, and it's just growing all the time. So kidsfreezedance.com is the place to go.
Wow, 500 videos. Wow. Listen,
For
guys.
now,
Listen.
I'm growing. Like, the goal is to get in the thousands, and I'll get there.
I love it. Oh man, I love it. Listen, guys, you're interested in wanting to build connection with your scholars. You're wanting to build relationships with them. Get in contact with Jay. He talks about how to build connection. He talks about how to incorporate the drums of music and the topics of education with math, science, English, and different things of that nature, and how to incorporate those two. So I think that that's very, very important. And listen, Jay, go ahead and leave him with a piece of motivation before we get up out of here.
So motivation, I would say focus on connection. Build connection with your kids. You build that connection, they'll do anything for you. As you build that connection, the other part of that advice is go with their energy. Do not try to contain it. You have got to let them move. You have got to let them express themselves. So as you're connecting, do it in a fun way. Move around. If you can go outside, go outside. If you're going to use one of my videos, cool. I would say connect with your kids and don't fight their energy. Why go uphill? You got to go with the flow. And our kids, they should be moving and learning all the time. If I had it my way, I would be teaching in a gym and we'd have desks in there too. And we'd have time to run. We'd have time to get up and jumping jack our way around the whole gym and then sit down and learn some math. So connect with your kids. Don't fight their energy. Go with it.
Listen, guys, y'all heard what he said. Connect with the kids, go with the flow, don't fight the energy. Don't put them in a box, don't put them in a cage. All right. You got to let them birds fly free. All right. So listen, guys. Jay, my man, bro, thank you so much, man. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This conversation, man, was well needed, not just for our audience, but more importantly, man, it was needed for me.
Oh,
So
well,
thank you, man.
I'm honored
Thank
to
you,
have
thank you,
connected with
thank
you,
you.
Logan. It means a lot. I wish Dante could have been here. Maybe next time. Maybe we could
Absolutely.
take it back. Yeah.
Absolutely. Listen, you're more than welcome to come back on, man. Anytime, man. We're definitely gonna bring you back on and make it happen. But listen, guys, before we close out of here, listen, this is the Class in Session podcast. We had our special guest, Jay. He is a third grade teacher at Butler Elementary in Colorado. So listen, if anybody's interested, wanting to learn about his program with Kids Freeze Dance, please get in contact with him. And again, he said you can get in contact. You can get in contact with him on all social media platforms, as well as his website at kidsfreezedance.com. All right, I'm gonna say it for you all one more time in case you didn't catch it. That is kidsfreezedance.com. All right, Jay, my man, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. All right, guys. So listen, this is the Class in Session podcast. I am your host, Logan Taylor. My partner in crime, my brother, he is here with us in spirit. He wasn't able to get on with us today. Dante Hampton, my co-host, my brother. And in closing, like we always say, why be normal when you can be extraordinary? Thank you, guys. We'll see you all soon. All right. Check out the next episode. Peace.